Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Papercrafting Thursday. I'm Leslie Watkins. So I hope everybody's well today. I have a very simple project. Now you remember yesterday I came on and we did that little watercolor painting, which was a very easy, loose, I'm calling it early summer bouquet. And what I want to do today is show you how you can make a really simple note card that will display your art, that will be able to go on a shelf, somebody's desk, or someplace where they can see it and enjoy it. So let's get started. Here's the picture that I did. Okay, so I'll give you a zoom in since you didn't see the finish yesterday. But all I did was delineate the flowers a little bit more. You saw how I started out with a very loose kind of wet painting, not overly wet, but just enough to get some soft edges. And then as the paper dried, I just add more details. And so I added some details to the petals in the helianthus. So you can see the little texture in the center of the flower. I also came in around the edges of the feverfew to put some of these little petals in there, but not too much. A little bit in the center. And then I added some darker accents with the leaves. And you don't even have to go this far. You could keep it even looser than this. So what I've done is I've gone into my stash and I've pulled out some cardstock. And hang on just a second while I check to see that we're live, and that looks good. Okay. All right, so what I've done is I've pulled out some cardstock. Now the materials that I use come from a company called Stampin' Up, and they are wonderful because they have about 50 or so different colors that all coordinate with various product, whether it's embellishments, ribbons, designer series papers, whatever, so that if you're interested in doing paper crafting, you're using a beautiful palette of color as well as super good quality supplies. And that's important because if you're going to take the time to do original art, you want to be sure that your papers are archival. Okay, so you don't want them to crack, you don't want them to yellow over time or to crumble. And so these are all archival papers. They don't have any acids in them, and they're going to work beautifully with your watercolors. Very important. Okay, so I went into my cardstock and I pulled out 4 different colors of green. And I think all of them look really nice with the card. So for those of you who are wondering, just so you know, this is called Lemon Lime Twist, Granny Apple Green, Old Olive, and Mossy Meadow. And they're beautiful greens, and I think that you can see that they coordinate very nicely with the picture. So as I'm looking at the greens, any of them would work, but I'm thinking, you know, I think I'd like to have a double mat of greens, and I really like the way the Lemon Lime Twist brightens up that picture. Here, let me clear these others away so you can see them one at a time, and you'll see what I mean, I think. So here's Lemon Lime Twist, and you can see it really picks up the bright greens and makes it very bright and very beautiful. This is the Granny Apple Green, and this looks really nice too. I like that. okay? But as compared to this one, there's a big difference, and that would work just as well. Now here's Old Olive. This is a color that you see me using a lot of. Looks absolutely beautiful, but now it's starting to look a little duller, a little more neutral, a little more in the middle tones, and in some applications that could be exactly what you're looking for. And then finally we've got the Mossy Meadow, which is a beautiful rich mossy green. Love this color, and that looks great too. Okay, but of them all, I like the idea of taking the one of the bright colors, like these two, and mixing them with a little dark accent. So almost like a French matte. So for those of you who don't know, a French matte is a very fancy handmade matte that sometimes has marbling on it. So if you've ever heard of paper marbling, it's a very beautiful technique and design. And it usually has a pinstripe, like a dark pinstripe, that helps to accentuate the image. And so if I used the Mossy Meadow with the Granny Apple Green, I would get this effect, okay? And if I use the Lemon Lime Twist, I get this effect. And I like that because it's still early summer, late spring, and I like that bright color. A little bit later in the season, I may not like it so much, but for now I'm going to go with that. So that's my selection, and that's some of my the back thinking about how I figure out some of these things, for those of you who are interested. So the card base that I'm going to make today is going to be super, super easy. If you're just getting started making cards, if you've never made a card before, I'm going to do this in such a way that you need very few tools. But the one tool that I would suggest that you have is a paper trimmer, and this one is particularly nice because it has the arm that comes out so that you can cut papers up to 17 inches wide, and it also has both a cutting blade and a scoring blade. And the scoring blade is very important because that's going to give you a beautiful crease in your project, whether it's a card or a box, so that when you fold your paper for your edges, you're going to get a nice smooth edge. It's going to feel nice against your finger. It's not going to catch on anything. It's not going to crack. And maybe most importantly, you're not going to be rubbing the fold with your fingers and getting the oils, the natural oils that are in your hand, onto your card or your project, because that over time would collect dirt and not be nice. So the card base itself, so now the next thing to decide, am I going to do a horizontal or a landscape, or am I going to do a vertical or a portrait? And I think this time I'll do a portrait. Generally I do a lot of horizontals because of my landscape paintings, but this time I think we'll mix it up a little bit. We'll do a vertical, and I just have to decide which section of this picture I'd like. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's just start with the card base. So because we're doing a vertical this time, I'm going to score. By the way, this is thick cardstock. This is the basic white. It comes in two different weights. It comes in the standard and it comes in the thick. And I just want to be sure that I pulled out the right one and I'm telling you the right thing. There we go. Okay. All right, so because I'm doing a vertical, I'm going to put my score line on the short side of the paper. So I'm just going to measure from 5.5. That gives me my middle point. And then I'm going to cut it on the 4.25. So there we go. And I see I'm out of the, I'm still getting used to this little camera. Let me see if I can move this so that I stay in the picture a little better. That looks better. Okay. All right, bear with me while I get my logistics set up here. I have to be the lighting expert, the camera expert, the designer, and the entertainer all at once, so it takes a minute. All right, that looks pretty good. I think you can see me okay. Anyway, it's all a big experiment, right? Okay. All right, so that's going to give me something like this. Now this measures 4.25 by 5.5. All right, so you can get your little ruler, double check, and my art measures 5 by 7. So I want to cut this down to 3 3/4, so that I have an even, I'm just double checking that that's what I want. I may want to trim it down a little bit more. I may make this a little bit smaller. But let's just start. And I'm picking the side that has the I like these flowers, so I'm going to pick this side. This I'll save for another project, and it could be, I could get 2 more out of this possibly. But here's my image so far. But I may just trim it down a tiny little bit. But let's keep going, and I'll decide in a minute. So for my darker outer mat with the darker color, I'm going to cut this at let's see, let's cut this at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So what that comes to is just 1/8 of an inch less than my outer area. So I get something like this. So just a tiny little bit of the white showing on the outer part of the card. Oops, wrong one. There we go. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take my lighter color, and I'm going to cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. And all these little pieces, of course, will be useful for something else. But I just want to, I'm checking my proportions, so I just want to see how everything is coming together here. And I like that. I like that a lot. So what I've got, let me get my pointer. I've got a slightly wider lemon lime twist matte, and then a slightly smaller sort of a pinstripe of the dark mossy meadow. And I like that quite a lot because I'm still getting the brightness of the colors, but I'm getting a little bit of an accent around the edge to kind of pull it all together. So that's good. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to turn this into an easel back card, and I'm going to do, there's a lot of different ways of doing that. I'm going to do it in a very simple way. And so what I would do, oh, I see what's happening here. I'm moving my head forward and backwards. Sorry. Let's make a little bit of a compromise here. All right, I think that'll work. All right, you all can let me know what you think about this little camera. I'm a little unsure about it, but if you like it, I'll keep doing it. So what I want to do here is I just want to score this in at the halfway point. So the height is 5.5, so I'm just going to go to 2 3/4. The trimmer makes it so easy to do this. It gives you those precision folds and cuts. Give that a little bit of a score, and then fold that. And I have something that looks like this. All right. Now, while I still have the trimmer out, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take my leftover piece here, and I'm going to cut. Let's do 1 inch. All right, so here's 1 inch by 4 1/4. Okay, so this is just what's left over from the other card. So 4 1/4. I'm going to do another one, just the same. All right, and then I'm also going to grab my mossy meadow, and I'm going to cut that at a little bit bigger. So I'm going to cut this at 1 inch and let's see, how much bigger do I want it to be? I'm going to make it 1 inch. I'm going to make it 1 1/4. 2 of those. All right, and since I have it right in front of me, I'm going to cut that at 4 1/4, 4 1/4. I'm going to go back to my white pieces, and I'm going to trim them down to 4. Okay. All right, so I think I have all my pieces. I'm going to clear the area here so we can get to work assembling everything. I'm going to zoom you in a tiny bit. Maybe that's too much. There we go. All right, now for those of you who are local, I want you to know that you are invited to the opening of the pop-up shop that's coming in July in town. So all of my watercolor and paper crafting students, please come on July 5th to the pop-up shop at 3 Station Place. It's in the old Artisans Guild building, and it's going to be from 5 to 7. And I will have a sneak preview there of some of the things that I have coming up for the month of July for both watercolor classes and paper crafting classes, and I'd love to have you join me. So you're all invited, and if you are tuning in from someplace outside of my local area, make sure that you subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. You can do that on my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com, and you will get all the news and information there on the coordinating online classes as well. So please do that. There's going to be a lot of announcements in the next issue, and I'd really like to keep you in the loop. Okay, So here we go. So now I'm going to use my bone folder to give me a beautiful crease here and here. I have my my finished art here, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to go around the edge and remove that core sort of unfinished look to the watercolor. Now there's some other ways you could do this as well. You could cut this out using one of the deckled rectangle dies, which would be really pretty. But for our card today, I want to keep it as simple as possible. So if you don't have a lot of equipment and you don't have any punches or dies and all that sort of thing, you'll still be able to do this very easily. So here is my my ink. I've got a sponge here, and I've got a little piece of cardstock to remind me of what color family this sponge is, so I don't get them mixed up. And I'm just going to tap that in here, and I'm going to sponge around the edge. And I don't know if you can, how well the camera will pick that up, but you see it's just making it a little bit darker, and I can also angle it so I get a little bit on the surface of the card, and it's just going to help to give it a little more of a finished look. This is optional, but it's just, I really like the way it looks. Okay, so there it is. Close this up. I'm going to be using my green glue. This is the multi-purpose liquid glue, and I love this glue because it's archival. It has, it won't yellow, it won't crack. It works great with paper, and it's going to give me a little bit of wiggle room. So if I need to make some kind of an adjustment with, there we go. If I need to make some kind of an adjustment to get all these things placed, I can move it a little tiny bit. There we go. I'm going to mount this onto my lemon lime twist. Check to see that it's right where I want it. Make any slight adjustments. And once I'm happy with the placement, I can use my bone folder again to give that a quick burnish, and this is going to help to spread the glue out and make sure there are no lumps, no lines. And it also secures the placement. Now I want you to notice that when I use the liquid glue, I'm using the bottle as if it were a ballpoint pen. So I've got the nozzle right on top of the paper, but I'm not going to the very edge. I'm staying about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and that way this very thin, and I'm not squeezing hard. I'm barely squeezing at all. And this way I'm not going to get so much glue so close to the edge that it comes out around the edges, because if I can avoid cleaning it up afterwards, that would be best. If you do have some glue that comes out around the edges, then you can use a glue eraser, which looks like this. Okay, once the glue is dry, you can use this to remove any little spots that may have gotten away from you. Again, I can line that up, get that just where I want it, give that a quick burnish. And there's my matted artwork. I love the way that looks. To attach it to the card, I'm only going to glue it to the bottom portion of the fold. So just this area that's down on the bottom. Again, using my glue. Staying well within the area. And I'm just kind of eyeballing that to see where that fold is so I get the glue in the right place. And then get that centered on there. Just going to hold that for a minute. It's looking good. Give that a burnish. There we go. All right, so this is the configuration that I have. All right, so it has a little bit of movement. It will fold flat, fit inside your envelope, and when the recipient gets your card, they'll be able to prop it up like so they can see it. But we need something, we need a stop. So something that goes across the bottom that's going to hold that in place. And that's where these little pieces come in. So remember, I cut out several of them. Now, you may not need them all, but the reason being is I wanted, actually we just need one of these, is that I wanted it to be high enough to create a little place where the top of the card would rest against that little ledge. Now there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it by layering up your pieces so that they have a certain thickness, and that's what I'm going to do today. That's how I'm going to show it to you today. Or you can also use these things. Let me get one that's opened. These are called dimensionals. Okay, and they're just these little foam shapes, and they just raise things up a little bit so that you have that added height that will catch the top of the card on. But if you don't have dimensionals, I'm going to show you how to do it by just layering this up, and it's very, very simple. I'm just going to go ahead like so. And there's my double layer. And then this piece, this white piece, I'm going to use for a sentiment. Now, I don't know how I'm going to be using this card right now. It could be a birthday card, it could be a thank you card, thinking of you. Hey, it could be a place card, and I could write somebody's name on there. That would be very fun. But for now, I'm going to save this until I have a use for this card. So all I'm going to do is glue this down. Figure out what angle I want this card to be at. And I think I want it something right around there. Okay, which means that my piece is going to go just like so. Get that straight. Now, this stopper could be any shape. If you're somebody that has a collection of punches, you could use a little oval punch if you like, a decorative punch, whatever shape you like. I'm just going to keep this very straightforward for the moment. So there it is. There's your cute little display to hold your artwork. You can stamp this and put a message here. There's enough room in here that you could write a message. I wouldn't write anything here. You could, but you could write a message up here. Put this in there. Could say happy birthday. You could even decorate this area down here. So if you wanted to add a little more, if you had some leftover bits of your painting, like I do, and I think that would be really cute, actually. So I may just do that. So there are some ideas. There is a very quick and easy way that you can create a easel back card to display your watercolor or your ink painting, whatever the case may be. You could also have your stamped image on the front. You could have a die cut, all sorts of options. I mean, it's really endless. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really glad that you could come on and see this. I know I'm coming on a little bit early because I have an appointment at 12 o'clock, so I've got to start getting ready for that. Please remember to subscribe to notes from Dandelion Cottage. You can do that in the banner at the top of the page. If you're watching on Facebook, I'll also have the link posted in the description on my YouTube video. And if you do that as soon as you can, you're going to get all the information about my brand new in-person pop-up shop that I'm very excited about. And if you're in the neighborhood, please come say hi. I'd love to see you. So stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.